Hello, my dear viewers. This amazing story will be very instructive for you. It is very interesting and beautiful. I wish you enjoy watching it. Elizabeth was born into an ordinary family. Her mother and father were simple people. She worked as an accountant, and he worked in a factory. The girl's childhood was going well. She went to health camps in the summer, and the rest of the time she studied. "I want you to enroll me in art school," Elizabeth said to her mother when she was in 3rd grade. "But you have dancing." Her mother worried that her daughter will not be able to keep up. "It's okay," she assured her. Okay, so from next year the girl went to art school. Now on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday she had dances, and on Tuesday, Saturday, Saturday she attended drawing lesson. The girls in the class went to a circle on painting boards. Elizabeth wanted to go with them. Mom was surprised at how much gusto her daughter had in her. She was not against all this as long as the girl had time everywhere. In the 5th grade, she and her friends went to home economics, and without abandoning other circles. "Did you do your homework?" asked her mother in the evening when her daughter was going to the dance class. "Of course." Elizabeth had time for school in other places. She still had a little time to go for a walk. "Do not get tired," interested parents, when the girl was at home in the evening. "No. Look what Suzanne taught us today." She pulled out of the bag an unfinished pillow made of satin ribbons. "It's beautiful," Mom marveled. "At art school, they sent my work to a competition," Elizabeth said. "I heard that you will soon perform in another city," said the woman about dancing. "Yes," shook her head daughter. "Great. Show them there," clenched her mother's fist. The girl tried, and she succeeded a lot. Elizabeth was a versatile person. She liked many things. She did not miss the opportunity to learn something new. "I'll probably take out a loan and start my own business," my father said. "Harry, what are you doing? Where did you get such thoughts from?" "I don't know, but I'm tired of working for my uncle," he said, and began to fulfill his plans. First, he had to find a place, and he did. There were small cubbyholes for sale in the market, and he bought a small space there. "I didn't know you had an entrepreneurial spirit," his wife told him at the time. "I didn't think about it myself, but you see, it was starting to work, and he was bringing in a little income every day." At first, Harry did not spend a penny, all invested in his business and paid off the loan. But after a year, something began to work out, and the man could afford to buy his wife a winter coat and his daughter natural boots. It was nice that his business idea didn't fail. "It's been 4 years," Harry told his wife. "So what?" She looked at him and didn't understand what he wanted. "We should open something bigger." He sat there, thinking. "Oh, it's up to you to decide. I'm not going to get involved in your affairs. I didn't know the woman. I put you on notice because if I rent a building now, most of the money will go there." "I see, we'll manage somehow," she reassured him. Having received from his wife a good thing, the man began to strive for what he wanted. Already in 2 months was found a good room, which was located in a busy place. Yes, it cost a decent amount of money per month, but it was worth it. "You are never home, even if we go out. Elizabeth and I are always alone," said Harry's wife in the evening. "Be patient, it'll be over soon." He kissed her. "Good." She hugged him. They turned off the bedroom light. Elizabeth was proud of her father, that he was able to achieve such results without anyone's help. She often stopped by his store. She loved being there. "Can you sit here?" Father asked the girl. "Sure, where are you going?" She was curious. "I'll go out and buy us something to eat." He was already opening the doors. Everything was going forward and uphill. It couldn't help but make me happy. The family changed the apartment. They sold their small one and bought a spacious 3-room apartment. His wife and daughter changed their clothes. Harry spared nothing for them. Some time passed. The man realized that alone it is already hard for him. Decided to hire a salesman. Now the young man Sam sat behind the counter. Previously, Harry was always asking or hiring someone to drive to get the goods. Now he realized he had to save up for a car. "What are you saving for now?" The wife saw her husband counting money and putting a third of it away. I want to buy a car, he told her. Wow, who will drive it because you don't even have a license? She asked him to give it up and buy a car. It's okay, Sam has one, he said, and he was sure that the seller would not let him down. A year later, Harry became the owner of the vehicle. The car was not new, a Russian manufacturer, but it was not important. The main thing was its wheels. Sam, I want to offer you a position as a driver as well, the boss told him. Good, any whim for your money, he laughed. Will you take me with you? Elizabeth asked when Harry and Sam were about to drive for the first time. Wait, daughter, we'll go first. See how the new driver is doing and then we'll take you. Sam was a great driver. Not only did he drive, but he kept an eye on the car. If it broke down, he told Harry, he'd give him money for parts. It was in a garage that Sam had keys to so he could take it whenever he wanted. Are we going tomorrow? Harry asked his driver. Yes, he agreed. There was only one inconvenience. The store had to close that day. It was frustrating, but there was no other option. A couple more years went by, and Harry was able to buy the building he used to rent. Now everything was in shambles altogether. I'll be there today, Elizabeth said. She liked the store even more now. She was 16 and Sam was about 5 or 6 years older than her. They chatted, telling each other different stories. Harry listened. A salesman turned to him one day. Yes, the boss turned to him. I have a good friend. He can become a driver. You will pay him for each trip. And that's it, but the store cannot close, he suggested. Fine. Drive your friend, the man agreed with him. He had 2 men working for him now. Billy, a guy, came in one day. You're that good friend? Harry shook his hand. I guess, the young man realized. He and Sam were the same age, had once been in the same class, and now they were helping each other. Elizabeth began to come to the store more often. She liked the new guy. She realized that she was too young for him, but she couldn't help it. The girl came. By this time, the art class had long been finished. She still went to the dance class, but other circles were a thing of the past. Billy would ask her how she was doing, and every time he'd give her a candy bar or some other treat. Fine, she laughed. Where are you going to go? The young man asked her. I haven't decided yet, probably in economics, the girl shrugged her shoulders. I see. I also have a session soon, he told her. And who will go then, she thought of her father. We decided that we would go beforehand. It was obvious that Billy also liked to communicate with the girl. 11th grade was coming to an end. We had to buy a dress for the prom. And of course Elizabeth thought about the exams, which she was very much afraid of. She had been preparing and knew almost everything, but she was still worried. Why are you so afraid? Her mother asked her. You see, I'm afraid not because I don't know, but because I can get excited and forget everything at once, she told her mother. I'll give you some valerian, she reassured her. Okay, agreed her daughter with her. And that exciting day came. Today was the first exam. What was Elizabeth's surprise when she came out of school and met Billy in the yard. What are you doing here? She looked around to see if he and his father were here, but there was no one around. I came to meet you and cheer you on. He propped her up on his elbow, and together they walked to the store to tell Sam that she had passed her first exam. Can I come to your graduation, Lita? Billy asked her. Of course, she smiled. She was flattered that the young man was paying attention. Elizabeth, I need to talk to you. Called her mom at home to the kitchen. What? She went in there. Listen, who were you walking with from school today? The woman asked. Billy. She wasn't hiding anything. It's just that people say they saw you with a man. Mom sat down on a stool. What? You're forbidding me to talk to them. The girl didn't understand. Who, them? The mother was stunned. With Sam and Billy, explained the daughter. Why? In the store as much as you want, but why walk on the street, and even on your arm? Upset woman that, about her daughter, may think that something about her daughter. Well, I heard you. Elizabeth was offended. She was already an adult to decide with whom she should walk and with whom not. The girl had passed all her exams successfully. It couldn't help but make her happy. All this time she was supported by Billy. They were always discussing something. the guy advised, and Elizaveta took it in her stride. "So, when's graduation?" he asked her. "In a week." She was ready for it. Thought that now she would have to leave the city. It was a little hurt that she would stop communicating with young people. "I will definitely come," he promised her. "You know, my mom forbade me to walk down the street with you," she confessed to him. "With who?" "Us, me and Sam," he laughed. "Yeah, there's nothing funny about that," she took offense. "I'm sorry, it's just, what does she think we can do?" he laughed again. "I don't know, but the fact is, she told me that." And Elizabeth knew that if she did out of spite and kept going out with young men, it would be even worse. "Okay, but in the store are we allowed to socialize?" the guy asked then. "Yes," she nodded. "Great." They walked up to the girl's house. The mother came out of the driveway. "Hello," Billy said to her. "Hi." The woman said hello and beckoned her daughter over to her. She turned to the boy and showed that she was about to be scolded. But strangely enough, the mother didn't say anything at all. They went to the store to buy the girl some shoes. They spent a very long time there. Elizabeth could not make up her mind. Finally, her mother showed her one pair of shoes that the girl just immediately fell in love with. "Thank you," she looked at her mom. "Everything for you," she kissed her. After that, they went shopping for a while, looked at other dresses, shoes and other things, and then came home. "Where were you two for so long?" Harry asked them. By now he was home. "Nowhere. Just walking around like that," his wife answered him. "Good, let's go to dinner. I'm starving." He got up from the couch and headed towards the kitchen. The girl and the woman followed him. All was well in the family. In a few days the graduation should be held. Elizabeth was a little nervous, but now it was a different excitement. On the day of the celebration, the graduate was beautiful. She stood on the porch and waited for her friends to come, and they appeared from around the corner, which pleased her. They were both wearing strict pants and shirts. They came closer and said hello. Now they were all ready to go into the hall for the formal part. "You're a beauty," Billy whispered to the girl. "Thank you." She blushed a little. He hadn't said that to her before. Everything had gone to a high standard. Now there was a small banquet and a disco outside. All this time, Billy and Sam were by the girl's side. "Now where are you going?" they asked her, when the bus pulled up and everyone started to get on it. "I'm not going anywhere if you want." She looked at them. "No, that's your business. You want to go." No one was against it. "You know, and I'd rather stay with you." The girl felt good in this company. "And let's go to the store, open it, and have a little celebration," suggested Sam. "That's a great idea," Elizabeth said. "Wouldn't Harry say anything?" Billy was afraid. "No, I'll explain everything to him later," the girl promised. They all headed off together to where Sam and Billy were working. It was fun. They told each other stories as usual and laughed. "Guys, thank you for always being there for me and supporting me," the girl told them. "Thank you. You are nice and fun to talk to." They had a good company. After that, the vacation began. 2 weeks, the girl had a full. She went to enroll, and then she was completely free. "Why college?" Billy asked her. "I don't know. It was the way I wanted to go." She didn't understand why she had chosen that option. "Well, it doesn't matter. Will you come with us tomorrow?" asked the young man. Of course, Elizabeth was always interested in these trips. She would sit up front, and the whole way they would argue with Billy about something. "Why are you always fighting?" the girl's father asked them. "No, we don't argue, but each defends his point of view." The driver spoke for the girl. Okay was not interested, Harry. They came to the wholesale base. There they split up. The man would go where he needed to go. He would spend a few hours there, and Billy and Elizabeth would walk the rows and pick out what the girl liked. Look, the guy would show the girl a bottle of toilet water. "Oh, it smells so good," she opened the cap. "I think it smells like watermelons or melons," he sniffed. "I'll probably buy them for myself," the girl said. "Can I buy them for you?" the young man asked her modestly. "Is that a gift?" she laughed. You can count it as such." He paid and gave the box to the girl. After that, they would return to the car, wait for Harry, and drive back. Elizabeth realized that she liked Billy, but did not say anything. The trio spent almost the entire summer together. They went out and stayed out late. In August, the girl began to prepare for the fact that she would soon have to leave. "Come back more often," Billy told her a week before she left. She wondered if you'd come with me because a month ago they'd agreed that Sam and Billy would go with her to the dormitory and help her with her things. "I can't," the boy admitted. "What's wrong?" The girl didn't understand. "I have to go to the institute too. The teacher told us to come a little earlier than the 1st of September, he told her. "Okay, sure, I'll come every weekend," she hugged him. When it was time to go, Dad agreed to sit in the store and Sam took the girl. Mom was going too, but couldn't get off work. "I'll call," Elizabeth said, and they drove. On the way, Sam talked a lot. He was joking, laughing, being different from his usual demeanor. "You're right on fire today," the girl told him. "No, I think it's business as usual," he told her. "I don't know," she smiled. They arrived at the dormitory. The young man helped her bring her things in. He sat down on a chair and watched Elizabeth put everything in its place. "How about some tea?" he asked her. Of course, right now it was a small part of what she could do for him right now. She put the kettle on as it boiled, poured boiling water into mugs, and tossed in a bag each. Then rummaged through her bag. She knew for a fact that her mom had given her cookies to take with her. When it was found, Sam and Elizabeth began to drink their tea, and again they laughed. "Okay, I have to go." The boy got up from his seat. "Bye, I'll be there soon." They hugged each other. Study began. By the weekend, Elizabeth already missed her friends so much that she couldn't wait to go to the train station and get on the train station and get on the train. But it did not have to do. When the girl came after study in the dormitory, she saw her father's car. Behind the wheel sat Sam. "Hi, what are you doing here?" She came up to him. "I came to pick you up." The young man did not hide. "What did your father tell you?" The surprise still lingered. "It's okay," he gave me a thumbs up. "Wait, now I'll go get my things and we'll go," she quickly said and ran to her room. After that, she got into the car and they drove off. On the way, they were silent at first. Elizabeth did not know what to say. "So, how was school?" Sam was a little quiet today. "It was fine." "Why didn't Billy come?" she wondered. "No, he's got 3 more weeks of school." Sam was staring at himself. "I see," Elizabeth said sadly. "Are you bored with me?" He turned to her for a moment. "No, I'm fine." The girl was silent again. Sam brought her home, helped her with her bags. "Shall we go out tonight?" he asked the girl. "I don't even know." She was confused. "I'll come by at 7. He went to park the car. Her mother was happy about her daughter's arrival. She had a million questions for her: how she settled down, with whom she lived, how her studies and the college itself. "What are you doing?" Elizabeth laughed at her. "What if I'm interested in everything?" Looked at her woman. "Okay, listen." And the girl began to tell her what and how it happens to her in the dormitory and outside it. And then there was a knock on the door. "It must be Sam," went Elizabeth to open it. Her mom, of course, was surprised that these guys were picking on her daughter, since she was so many years younger than them, but she didn't say anything out loud. "Hello, Sam," the woman stepped out into the hallway. "And I'm here for Elizabeth." He looked at the girl. "Come in, I'll buy you a pie." His mother invited him to the table. "Thank you." The young man did not refuse. They sat for a while, talked, and then the young people left the house. The guy invited the girl to the movies. That's where they went. The evening was spent well. After the movie, they sat in the park for a while. And then Sam escorted Elizabeth home. Elizabeth spent the next day with her parents. It was nice to be together with them after the separation. Sunday morning she had to leave, but Sam arrived again. He told her not to hurry. He would take her home in the evening. "He's getting active," Elizabeth said to her mother. "I don't know, you know best," she shrugged. But it was good not to run with the bags to the station. And just in the evening, to bring them down to the entrance. The young man worked for the day, and after that he came to pick up the girl. Ready? He took her bags. Yes, let's go. She turned to her mother, kissed her, said goodbye to her father. Elizabeth, can I come visit you sometime? Sam asked on the way. Why not? She wondered at the question. Okay, then wait for me sometime on Wednesday, he promised. Okay, the guy's behavior was a little tense. He did indeed arrive on Wednesday. They had left the car outside the hostel and were now walking around the evening city. It's so beautiful here. The young man looked around. Yes, she agreed with him. Say, who do you like better, me or Billy? He suddenly asked her as they sat down on a bench. What kind of questions? She turned to him. Just, I wanted to know, he pretended, as if he didn't care. After the walk, her friend walked her home. She entered the building, waved to him, and went to her room. Why are you so sad your friend came to see you? Her roommate asked her. Tell me, if you have two friends, and they both like you, and you only like one, what should you do? Elizabeth turned to her. I don't know. The roommate began to wonder. Elizabeth told her story, and that's what I should do now. It's like he's suffocating me with his attention. The girl confessed. You should wait for Billy, and the three of you should talk, the friend advised. I think so too, she agreed. Sam didn't come to pick her up on Friday because she called her father and told him not to let the salesman go. Elizabeth calmly got to the train, and this weekend spent at home. When Sam came over, her mom chided him that her daughter had gone to her grandmother's house. Thank you, her daughter thanked her. You're welcome, she replied. Elizabeth wanted to wait for Billy to arrive the following weekend. Then they would all get together again and talk. Except the girl didn't know how that conversation would go for them. She didn't think anyone would be able to admit to anything. The week flew by quickly, and now Elizabeth was sitting in the train again. She was pulling up to the train station, and she could already see Billy meeting her. Hi, they hugged. Where's Sam? I don't know. I called him and he didn't pick up. He was probably out somewhere. The boy answered her. I missed him so much, Elizabeth admitted. And me? He hugged the girl again. He said that he had arranged with her father that they could sit in the store tonight. They didn't want to go to some public place and have someone disturb them. When they were already there, the guy pulled a box out of his pocket. What's this? She was staring at it. Look, he said cryptically. Are you proposing to me? She took the gift in her hands. It's too early for that, he said jokingly. Elizabeth opened the lid and there were earrings on the cushion. How symbolic. Billy had given her the earrings. She pulled them out and tried them on immediately. Very nice. The guy appreciated. At that moment the doors opened and Sam walked in. Hi, why didn't you call me? He sounded offended. But you came, Billy shook his hand. What are we doing? A young man came through. Nothing yet. They were waiting for you. Elizabeth could see that something had happened between the boys. She tried to defuse the situation, but she wasn't very good at it. They sat up until nightfall. Then the guys walked her home. Sunday, Elizabeth went to school. Billy saw her off. Sam was at work. Bye. See you in a week. The young man hugged and whispered in her ear. Yep, she kissed him on the cheek. So, did you talk? Ava asked in the dormitory. No, I do not understand what's going on at all, the girl honestly admitted. At night, until she fell asleep, Elizabeth thought about her friends, whether sympathy for her will destroy their long friendship. The week passed quickly. Elizabeth waited for nothing, and no one. She got on the electric train again and went to her town. There was no one at the station. Strange? She stepped out onto the platform and looked around. Her friends really weren't here. She came home. Hi, honey. Her mom hugged her on the doorstep. Do you know what happened? Why Sam and Billy didn't come to meet me? Elizabeth asked immediately. No, Daddy said Billy quit during the week, the woman told her daughter. Quit how? She wondered. I don't know. He didn't say anything. He just warned me and that was it. They went into the kitchen. I wonder why that happened. The girl didn't fully understand. That's enough about them. Tell me about yourself. Mom was tired of her daughter thinking only about guys. She went out with them. She talked about them. She didn't spend much time with her. Okay, I'll go see Sam tomorrow, Elizabeth agreed with her. They sat down at the table. The girl had a little snack, and then she and her mom started making dumplings. Elizabeth rolled out the crumbs, and the woman made the dumplings themselves. They talked about many topics. The father came home. Hello, his daughter approached him. She couldn't help but ask what had happened to Billy. Hello, he kissed her cheek. I really don't know anything. Okay, sighed Elizabeth. She went back into the kitchen where her mom had already cleared everything off the table. Dumplings boiled. They ate as a family, then the mother stayed to wash the dishes, and the father and daughter went to their rooms. In the morning, the girl hurried to the store to find out everything from Sam. She hoped that he, as a friend, would know something. Hello? She went in to see him. Elizabeth, how glad I am. He stood up, leaned under the counter, and pulled out a bouquet of flowers. What are these? She didn't understand. It's for you. He came over and put his arm around her. Thank you, of course. But where's Billy? What happened? That was the question she wanted to ask today. Honestly, I don't know. The young man averted his eyes. Okay, it was sad that they had spent so much time talking and he had just disappeared, without any explanation. Shall we go out tonight? Sam asked. Probably not. She turned around and walked out of the store. Why? The guy looked behind her. Not yet, she said nothing to him. Elizabeth walked back home, feeling very bad about not being able to find out anything about Billy. At home, she went straight to her room, lay down on her bed, and began to think about the young man. Why had he left without saying anything, without even saying goodbye? So she lay there all day. Mom, I'm probably going to leave now and not come back next weekend, she told the woman. Why? What's wrong? She didn't understand her daughter. I don't know. I have a lot to think about, the girl honestly told her. Okay, be good. Her mother kissed her goodbye. Elizabeth left. Sam came to visit her a couple times, but she didn't go out to see him. She didn't know how he reacted to it, but she didn't care. Then when she came home, she didn't go to the store anymore, and in May, her father brought home a wedding invitation. It was from Billy. What? I can't believe it. Elizabeth stared at the cardboard card. Why? The man didn't understand. How could he? She wanted to cry. Are you coming? Harry came up to her. Yes. She was still reading the lines where it said that Billy and Emma were inviting Billy and Emma to their wedding as well. Then they should buy a nice dress. Her father had spared nothing for his daughter. They went to the store. While the girl chose an outfit, she was a little distracted from sad thoughts. But still, what happened, why he left, because she never said anything bad to him. Elizabeth remembered that innocent kiss at the train station. She felt sad again. Hello. Come in. Billy walked up to them as they arrived at their celebration. Hi, Billy. The girl looked at him. Your seats are over there. He didn't respond to her greeting. Thank you, Harry, thanked the young man. After that, Sam and his girlfriend entered the hall. They too made their way to that table. Everyone was having fun, dancing. It was very interesting, and only when Elizabeth raised her eyes to the groom, she saw how sad they were. No one knew why he was sad, only he alone. When the newlyweds approached the table where Elizabeth and her father were sitting, he didn't look at her. And, of course, she couldn't take him aside, for he was the centerpiece of this celebration. I'm going home, Elizabeth said, and she stood up and walked toward the exit. No one began to stop her. The girl left for her studies. She tried to forget what happened to her when she was in school. One day she went for a walk with her friends. She didn't want to go home, and the girls decided that they would stay here for the summer and try to find part-time jobs. They could stay in the dormitory, and for the remaining 2 months, they could rent an apartment for all of them. Hi, they were sitting at a table in a summer cafe, and some young men came up to them. How are you? They laughed. It was fun and carefree. Fine. Can we come with you?" Showed the young men on the free seats. Of course, the girls didn't mind. That evening passed very cheerfully. And when later they rented an apartment, they began to gather almost every day. "Elizabeth, let's live separately," Jack suggested her. "No, this apartment is only for the summer," she answered him. "How long do you have left to study?" He was curious. "A year." She didn't want to hide anything from him. "And I have the same amount of time." He liked her when they first met. "That's great, we can do something together." She saw that everyone was going somewhere. "Shall we?" She called Jack and everyone together. "I'd like to be alone with you." He held her hand. "There'll be plenty of time for that," she told him. "Good." And they all walked outside as a group. The young men were dating. Elizabeth had fallen in love with this young man. She felt it when they didn't see each other for a whole week and then spent the whole weekend together. "I feel so good with you," the young man whispered to her. "And me with you." So passed 6 months. During this time, they learned a lot about each other. When spring began, there was no time for meetings at all. Both Elizabeth and Jack were writing a diploma, preparing for exams in defense of the diploma project. "Where will we go after graduation?" the guy asked her in their rare meetings. "I don't know. I'd like to go back to my town," she shrugged. "Well, will you take me with you?" he asked. "Sure." They kissed. "Okay, it's time to part and go home. We will defend ourselves. Then everything will be fine." He once again pulled her to him, and they parted. Everything was done. The diploma was defended. It was possible to get a diploma and go to get a job. Elizabeth didn't think about Billy now. She had forgotten about him, and it was easy for her. "Are we going to the graduation?" Jack asked. "I think we'll have enough time for the ceremonial part," was her opinion. "Yes," the boy agreed with her. They studied in different educational institutions, so they had to part again for a while. But by evening, the couple was together again. "Well, tomorrow we'll already be home," said Elizabeth. "Where will we live?" Jack asked. "Let's see. Rented housing is not very expensive." The girl was sure that they will succeed. Today they spent the last night each in their own dormitory, and already tomorrow the girl's family was waiting for them. "The first few nights you can stay with me," Elizabeth said to the guy in the train. "If no one will not mind, and I will not interfere." "I agree." He smiled and hugged her. "Of course you will not interfere with anyone." She looked at her lover and smiled. They arrived in the city where the girl was born and lived. The head of the organization where she was interning called and invited her to work. It was nice, and it was good to not have to look for anything. Jack walked around looking for himself, but never found anything because the salary did not suit him. "What are you going to do?" Elizabeth asked him. "The guys are calling me to work on shift," he told her. "And what?" She waited, realizing that again she would have to wait and be bored. "I agreed there, and the work is normal and pay is decent," he told her. After that, the young people began to look for rented accommodation. No matter how their father did not persuade them to stay with them, Jack and Elizabeth were adamant. They wanted to be alone. "Okay, just don't forget to come visit," Harry told them. Finally, a place to live was found. Just as Elizabeth had said, the rent wasn't that great. Jack could easily pay it all from his paycheck. Once they moved in, the young man packed a bag a couple days later and went to work. "I love you," the girl told him. "And I you." They kissed in the hallway, and he went out the door. Elizabeth decided not to spend the night here tonight because a lot of things were not yet purchased, so she went to her parents. "Hello," entered the girl into the apartment. "Come in here," shouted her mother from the kitchen. She was busy with something that she could not even come out to her daughter. When the girl came to the kitchen, she saw that the woman was making cold cream. "Oh, it'll be delicious today," Elizabeth told her. "Sit down. Tell me." Loved to listen to her mother. "What to tell?" "Jack is gone, and I'm bored. Tomorrow I'll go to the interview," said the girl. "Put on a longer skirt, a white blouse, jewelry out of your ears," the woman instructed her. "Good." Elizabeth knew her mother couldn't do without it. They put the Claudettes in the refrigerator and themselves went into the room. There they just sat on the sofa, watching TV. "Where's Father?" Elizabeth asked. "I don't know, at the store, I guess," Mom shrugged. "How is Sam?" Elizabeth wondered. "He hasn't been working for a long time. There's a different salesman now," Mom said. "Wow, how much has changed?" The girl shook her head. "All right, let's go." They went back to the kitchen. The Claudettes were almost ready. They had to prepare something else for the head of the family. When everyone had dinner, Elizabeth went to her room. She was curious about what was waiting for her tomorrow at the conversation with the head, who had invited her there. In the morning, the girl went home. She took a shower, prepared clothes, and after lunch she went to her new place. In the office of the supervisor, the conversation was not long. Suzanne told the girl what would be her duties, but the most important thing was the size of the salary. "If you are satisfied with everything tomorrow, you can go out," the woman said. Of course, Elizaveta did not care. It was just necessary to get caught up. The girl filed all her paperwork with the secretary and went home to go to work for the first time tomorrow. While it was summer, she had managed to enroll in the institute by correspondence. Now she was working and studying. On the first day, Elizaveta did not leave the office. Even when everyone went for tea, she didn't want to. The next day in the morning, a worker from another department came into their office. "Hello." Elizabeth turned around in her chair and stopped talking. Emma, Billy's wife, stood in front of her. "Elizabeth, hello. When did you get here?" Just as surprised as she was by the old acquaintance. Yesterday, the girl was still in shock. "I see, and I've been here for a year." Emma approached her table. "Okay, we'll chat." Elizabeth didn't feel like talking to her anymore. She went home in the evening, thinking that the earth was round after all. And 2 weeks later, there was a corporate party at work. By that time, Jack had returned from his shift. Elizabeth was so happy. She hugged him. "Seems to me that we haven't seen you for months." She kissed her beloved. "And I love you. He missed you too." "We have a corporate party at work. Will you go?" asked on his. "Probably not. I want to rest," he told her. "Then I'll go for a while. A new team. You need to get in," said the girl. "Okay," was not against the young man. Elizabeth put on a cocktail dress, thought she would look very good in it, sent an air kiss to Jack, and left the apartment. She walked into the organization. Some people there were setting up tables. As everyone sat down, Elizabeth saw Billy come out of the office where Emma was working. "Hello." He looked at her. "Hello." Her heart raced. The girl realized that she still hadn't forgotten him. He sat down across from her, wooing the girl throughout the evening. When everyone loosened up a bit, he started asking how she was doing and what was going on in her life. "You know, everything is fine. I am living with a young man." She lowered her eyes after these words. "I congratulate you." It was obvious that Billy was attracted to her. "How are you doing?" She looked at him. "I graduated from college. Now I'm working as a lawyer," he began to tell her. Emma had been busy talking to her co-workers the whole time, and since Elizabeth hadn't talked to many people here yet, she'd been chatting with Billy the whole time. "Why did you quit then and not say anything?" She asked him a question that had been plaguing her for a long time. "Look, it's been so long. Why bring it up?" He tucked a strand behind her ear that had gotten loose. The movement pleased the girl. "Okay, you don't want to. Don't talk." She agreed with him. After all, it was true. They had their own lives. What did it matter? What was in the past? The girl sat for a while longer and started to get ready to go home. "Are you leaving already?" Billy asked her. "Yes. My young man just arrived today. I don't want him home alone." She didn't bother to hide anything. "I see. Well, see you later. I think we'll see each other more often now." Got up to walk her out, Billy. "It was nice to meet you and talk to you." She looked at him at the door. "Me too." He opened them for her. She walked down the street and thought to herself that everything that is done is for the best. But now her thoughts of Billy were only as an old friend. She had a lover she hadn't seen in so long, and it didn't seem fair to think of another. She went into the apartment. It was dark, Asleep, she thought. She tiptoed into the bathroom, washed her face, changed her clothes, and went into the bedroom, lying down next to Jack. He felt it, hugged Elizabeth. "I love you," she whispered. "And I you," through sleep, said the young man. The next day was a day off, which the young people spent together, and 2 weeks later Jack had to leave again. "Why, when you are away, the days stretch very long, and when you are at home, they flew like one day?" asked him a girl. "Elizabeth, will you marry me?" He answered in vain. "I agree, and it doesn't matter that there was no ring and everything. Then I'll come back and we'll plan the wedding." And he left. Elizabeth went to work every day. She was communicating well with the entire staff. Everything was going great. Jack and Elizabeth called each other every day. They couldn't live without each other. As the young man promised when he arrived, they went to the registry office and filed the application. "That's it, just a little more, and you will be mine officially," hugged her boyfriend. "I only dream about it," she kissed him on the nose. The invitations were signed, and one of the first ones Elizabeth brought to Emma. "Congratulations." She looked at the beautiful picture. "Thank you. Are you coming?" It was important for the girl to know. "Of course," smiled her colleague. Preparations for the wedding were in full swing. Elizabeth was very excited about this moment. With her parents, they went to a neighboring town, bought a beautiful wedding dress. The restaurant was ordered. Friends were invited. It remained only to wait for Jack, and then the holiday will definitely take place. "You will be the most beautiful bride," repeated Elizabeth's mother. Everything was fine. The girl was happy that she was marrying the man she loved. On the day of the wedding, she was at her mother's in the morning, went to get her hair done, came home, put on her gorgeous dress. The table was set, just waiting for the groom to go through all the ransom conditions and come home. "I love you." Elizabeth heard Jack shouting different phrases in the entryway. She was pleased that the young man didn't ignore all the traditions. "Beloved," he entered the room, gave her a bouquet and kissed her. Then Elizabeth's parents gave them instruction. Her mother gave them an icon. The guests had a little snack and all went down to the courtyard, got into cars and drove to the registry office. "Do you agree?" They stood in the registry office in front of the registrar. Elizabeth felt a little dizzy, and it was all from happiness. And then the rings, the kiss, the first dance. It was nice to realize that she was next to a strong, reliable, and most importantly, the dearest, most beloved person. "You are the best," the girl whispered to him while they were dancing. "I love you." He pressed her to him. After that, they went to the restaurant. All the guests were there too. It was a lot of fun. The hostess who was hosting the event was rocking her heart out. Before, when Elizabeth was at other weddings, she was always envious of the bride and groom, thinking that they were the main ones at this celebration. But today, when she was in this role, she realized that there was nothing good about it. They were constantly being lifted up, wanting something from them, shouting bitterly, called to the center of the room to congratulate them. Her legs were so tired that by 11 p.m., she wanted nothing more than to go home. "Mom, we should probably go home." Elizabeth walked up to her. "All right, dear, go. Have a rest," she agreed with her. All the presents had already been taken away, and now Jack and Elizabeth got into the car and drove off. "I am the happiest woman in the world," said the girl tiredly when they arrived home. "That's it. You are mine now." Jack helped her unlacing her dress. They didn't feel like doing anything today, not even talking. They just lay down and fell asleep. It had been a very hard day. After the wedding, life went on as usual. Jack and Elizabeth almost never quarreled because they had to be apart often. For 2 weeks, Jack was at home, and for 2 weeks he was away. So when Elizabeth missed him, she welcomed him with open arms. "Elizabeth, how do you live like this? Husband and wife should always be together." Her mother came to her house. "Mom, what are you talking about? Can you imagine? He has been gone for 2 weeks. I miss him so much that when he comes, I think I love Jack even more," she told her. "I don't know. It's never been like this before. If we live together, we live together. And what it is, husband there, you hear, still did not understand this woman. But life was such that it was necessary to earn money somewhere, and Jack was good at it. They had been married for 3 years when Elizabeth was visited by a school friend. It was a surprise visit, and they were both very happy. "So, how are you doing here?" Inga asked her. "Yes, we live, we work, we make the best of it," answered Elizaveta. She never complained about her work. She liked everything. If only they paid a little more. Jack still worked where he started. Now Elizabeth and Inga met almost every day. They couldn't get enough of talking about what had happened before and what was happening now. "Oh, you know, we have very difficult conditions in the north, but I really like living there," Inga told her. "Yes, what you say about salaries. I think it's just a fairy tale." Elizaveta looked at her. "Come and visit," Inga invited her. "Well, it's necessary to wait for vacation," said Elizabeth. "When do you have it?" Inga had already tuned in to the fact that her friend would come to her. "I do not know. Probably in September," counted in her mind Elizabeth. When she got a job, and when she went on vacation for the last time. "You should come in September. It's not snowing much and it's not very cold." Her friend smiled. "What do you mean there is not enough snow in September?" Elizabeth was surprised. "Well, what did you want 9 months of winter there? The rest of the time some kind of summer," explained her friend. Elizabeth had never imagined such a thing. When Jack arrived, the first thing Elizabeth did was to call her friend. "Come and visit her tonight. We'll have a drink," she told her. "I take it Jack is here," she guessed. "Yes, I'll introduce you." Elizabeth wanted to do it very much. Inga came in the evening, and now she was telling Jack that it was possible to work at an ordinary job, not to do any hard labor, and earn so much that he could not even think of such sums. "Okay, we'll think about that option," Jack turned to Inga. The evening went very well. Her friend had a few days left until the end of her vacation. And when she left, she took a promise from Elizabeth that she would definitely come to visit her, at least just to see. "And what, you'll go?" Jack looked at his wife. "Look, why not? Sometimes you have to make a change in life," she told him. "I don't know. We're already settled here. You've got a good job, a decent job, a team, and the salary is not very small compared to others. Things are going well for me too. Why go somewhere else?" He didn't understand. "And I want to try something new." Elizabeth did not hide from him. "Okay, in September you'll go on vacation. You'll go, see how they're and what, and then we'll decide whether to go there or not. On this," and agreed. Until September was still a couple of months, in which Elizabeth very carefully thought over everything, what to take with her, because what if I had to stay? In September she had actually taken a vacation, bought a ticket. Now she was sitting at the airport thinking that she was going to fly on an airplane for the first time. They spent only 2 hours on the flight. When Elizabeth went outside with her suitcases, she was already met there. Inga had arranged with a familiar young man, and he came to pick up his friend. But that was not all. Now it was necessary to drive a few more hours to the place where Inga lived. It took a long time to get there. Only by midnight Elizabeth arrived. "Well, you've got it, friend," she said to Inga. "Yes, it is what it is. But this road kills you when you are going somewhere," she hugged her. They sat down at the table, drank tea, talked a little, and went to bed because Elizabeth was very tired from the road. In the morning it was the weekend, so no one had to go anywhere. The girlfriends went outside to see what the place was like. It was a small town, not to say it was beautiful or anything. The only thing that surprised Elizabeth was that the houses here were not tall and there were no trees at all. Every evening they sat with Inga and talked about work, enterprises, how to work here and what conditions were like. "Well, have you thought about staying?" her girlfriend asked her. "You know, when now I really found out what salaries are here, then most likely I will think about your option. But if you allow me to stay for the first time to live at your place," asked her Elizaveta, Of course, I need to consult with my husband, but I think he will not mind. The girl was sure of it. That same day, Elizabeth decided to call her boss to find out from her if it was possible to quit without coming back to her city. "Suzanne, hello. Can I quit my job remotely?" she asked her. "Elizabeth, what's wrong? You're on vacation." She didn't understand her. "Yes, I came to a friend in the north, and I realized that I can stay here," she explained to her. "Of course you can quit. But think about it. Will you regret it?" asked her boss. "I think not," Elizabeth answered her. And in a couple of days, Suzanne called with the good news that the girl was fired remotely. Now all that was left was to find a job and wait here for Jack. But it wasn't that easy. "Well, did you call anywhere?" Inga asked a friend when she came home from work. "You can't imagine. I called all the organizations. They ask about seniority, about experience, who I came here to, how I found out about this place." Elizabeth told her, "Nothing. I believe that a little more, and you will definitely find something worthy," encouraged her friend. And indeed, not 2 months later, Elizabeth got a job. She rented a room in the dormitory. Now she was waiting for Jack. "Beloved, well, when will you come?" she told him on the phone. "Now one more shift, I will finish working, and then I will definitely come." From his voice it seemed that he was not burning desire to go there. "Okay, I'm waiting for you," she agreed with him, girl. She continued to work. It was hard, but she didn't say anything to anyone. If she made such a decision herself, then she had to endure everything. Finally, at the end of winter, Jack was here. When he knocked on the door, Elizabeth couldn't believe it could be her husband. "I missed you so much." She threw herself around his neck. Now it was possible to buy some furniture, to collect something, to bring, because before Elizabeth alone could not do it. Her husband quickly found a job. There was no problem with that. "You should think about getting an apartment," Jack told her. "Yes, of course. Let's earn a little money so that we have some kind of safety cushion." Elizabeth told him. The dormitory was fine, but the toilets and showers were shared, and the young man didn't like that. Also, Jack wanted a baby. He never talked about this topic with his wife, but constantly hinted. "Beloved, wait, now everything will get better. We will start working steadily. We will rent an apartment and maybe even buy it," Elizabeth told him. She herself did not understand why the pregnancy was not happening, but now she was not in a hurry. It had been a year since they had lived here, or rather, Elizabeth had. She wanted to go on vacation, but by this point Jack hadn't earned it yet. So she had to put everything on hold and wait for her husband to wait until the due date. "I'm going to Inge's," Elizabeth said in the evening, and left the house. "What are you doing there with Inga?" She came home and heard her husband grumbling. "Well, you have become so, always walking, grumbling something under his nose," did not understand his girlfriend. They found a good option to rent an apartment, and now the family was preparing to move in. There were bags all over the room. Where did all this junk come from? Jack walked between them. Elizabeth didn't understand what had happened to her husband. She used to know him as a cheerful guy who was companionable, but now all he did was grumble. She remembered her mother saying that a husband and wife should live together and get to know each other. And now Elizabeth realized that because of her husband's shift work, they had not had time to get to know each other properly. The couple moved into an apartment. After one room in the dormitory, this small one-bedroom seemed like paradise. "Look, the room is separate. The kitchen is separate," went there Elizabeth. As a hostess, it pleased her. She quickly put all the things in their places. Now, it was only necessary to make a small cosmetic repair. The landlady warned them about it. Finally, the time had come when they could go on vacation. Elizabeth and Jack had written their applications. They had already earned enough money and were now going to go to the sea as a family for the first time. "I used to only go there with my parents," Elizabeth told him on the plane. "Well, now we'll go together," he told her. But the girl saw that he was again in no mood. Lately, Elizabeth was only trying to keep her family calm. Jack was constantly displeased, he grumbled, but the girl swallowed it all. She tolerated it so they didn't have loud arguments. Yes, they worked and got tired. Sometimes they needed a distraction. And so today they were flying to her parents' house. Elizabeth, her mom saw her when she opened the doors. They hugged and stood in the hallway for so long. "Mom, come on," her daughter said to her. "God, how long I haven't seen you," cried the woman. "It's all right," she soothed her. "What are you planning to do now?" The mother realized that they would not stay here for long. "We bought a trip with Jack, and in 3 days we will go to the sea," answered her daughter. "Oh, I'm so happy for you, and that you are far away, and that I do not see you for such a long time. But you are all right," did not know the mother as they now live. The couple did not stay together long at the sea, the first 2 days, and then Jack got tired of everything, and he, as usual, began to grumble. Elizabeth thought that, for the first and last time, she went on vacation with him. For the last few days, husband and wife vacationed separately from each other, and then they had to return home. "That's the end of the vacation," Elizabeth said to her mother when they arrived. "Yes, it's a pity. We didn't see each other much at all." The woman hugged the girl. The family went back to work. Nothing pleased the girl now. She did not want to come home from work because there was always a disgruntled husband. More and more often she spent time at Inga's or other acquaintances. Jack grumbled this way and that, and lately he began to quarrel at all. Their quarrels were louder and louder. They could yell at each other. One day Jack even took a swing at Elizabeth. "What are you doing?" She looked at him with frightened eyes. "Nothing," he said grudgingly. By then they had already lived 10 years in the north. "Where have you been?" Jack asked her. "At Inga's," his wife told him. She had nowhere else to go but her friend. "Yeah, I know you're Inga." He didn't believe her. He was jealous of her, but he wouldn't admit it. He should have just talked to her to find out. Now every year they went on vacation. Only the wife spent time at her parents' or went on vacation alone, and the husband, like a bug, locked up at home, sat alone, playing console or watching TV. Elizabeth. "Well, how are you doing?" asked her mother from the calls of her daughter. She knew roughly what was happening in the family, and very worried. "There is no family anymore," Elizabeth said. She remembered how she had loved Jack, how she had missed him, how she had waited for him. Now there was none of that inside at all. With his admonishments, and everything else, he had simply discouraged her from loving or doing anything else. It had been 15 long years that they had lived in this distant, cold land. For Elizabeth, every day was like Groundhog Day. She woke up in the morning, washed up, got dressed, went to work, came home in the evening, cooked dinner on automatic, lay down in front of the TV, watched it, fell asleep, and woke up again in the morning. And it went on like that every day. This time the vacation fell in February because she and her colleagues shared alternated years. One year they took one in summer, the other in winter. "Where are we going in February?" Jack was displeased as usual. "What difference does it make wherever?" Elizabeth told him. She wanted to get on the plane and fly to her mother. In the evening they waited for the car that was to pick them up, to take them to the airport. They loaded up. The husband and wife didn't speak. They got into the car. It was going to be several hours of driving on a deserted highway. "Oh, it's so cold." Elizaveta shivered in the car. "Yes, the wind is blowing through the windows today," the driver said. As they drove off, Elizabeth saw that there was a snowstorm sweeping across the ground. She had always been a little afraid of this road because, first of all, it was far away. Secondly, it was cold. Thirdly, it was night. And fourthly, and most importantly, there were no settlements, no houses, nothing along the road. Just one bare highway. Nobody realized what had happened. But at some point the car skidded and they started spinning down the road. It was very scary. Elizabeth screamed, and eventually, after flipping over twice, they came to a stop. Jack was the first to wake up. He looked to see that the car was lying in a deep snowdrift. Elizabeth was unconscious in some strange position. The driver had hit his head on the steering wheel, and now he too was unconscious. My God, the man realized. If nothing was done now, they would just freeze to death here. He took the phone out of his pocket. He knew for a fact that there was no communication here. But no one canceled the 112 emergency service. He could not get out of the car because he realized that he would fall into the snowdrift. So he opened the window and tried to get out on the roof, but he couldn't do it. It was snowing hard and it was cold. When he got through to the rescuers, he could not explain where they were. Roughly told how many hours traveled, what was. All that was left was to wait. "Mum," he heard the driver groan. "Are you okay?" He touched him on the shoulder. "Headache," said the man. He looked at Jack. "Okay, buddy, we gotta do something to stay warm," he told him. The car wouldn't start. There was no hope for the heater. So they started pulling out anything they could light and keep warm in here. When Jack climbed out of the window, he was only half out. The man didn't realize what had happened to him yet, and now that he wanted to do something, he felt his legs hurt a lot. When Jack lowered his eyes down, he saw that one leg was unnaturally bent and the other was swollen and very sore. What a lot of things they did while they waited for help. The 2 tires that were sticking out of the snow and could be unscrewed, they burned as well as the spare tire. Elizabeth was unconscious the whole time, and then, finally, the flashes showed up in the distance. When the rescuers arrived, the men were wearing everything that was in their bags, prepared for vacation. They had a hard time finding you, they admitted later, as time passed. Jack looked at his cell phone. He'd called the rescue team at 2 a.m, and they hadn't gotten there until 8 a.m. He himself couldn't believe they had survived that long outside in the winter. At the nearest hospital, where they were taken, Jack was told that he had fractured one leg in 2 places, and the other was really dislocated, but with displacement. "What about my wife?" he asked. The man saw that Elizabeth was immediately taken somewhere. "I can't say anything without x-rays, but it seems to me that her spine is affected and it's serious," the doctor told him. "What's going to happen now?" Jack was sitting on the couch in the hallway, waiting for his turn. "I don't know. The doctors will do what they can, but you'll have to be patient. It's nursing. It's doctors and everything else." The doctor told him. Jack understood all that, and now he was blaming his wife again for wanting to go on vacation in the winter. They put a cast on his legs and he had to stay in the hospital for a while. The man agreed because he didn't want to leave without Elizabeth. She regained consciousness only at the end of the 2nd day. When Elizabeth opened her eyes, she did not realize where she was. "How is my wife?" Jack asked the doctor every 2 hours. "Recovered finally," he told him. "Can I see her?" The man asked. Sure, the doctor brought him a chair. At first, Jack didn't want to get in it. He wanted to go on crutches, but then he thought it would be easier. So he rode it to his wife's room. "Hello?" He went in there. "Jack, what's the matter with me?" Elizabeth lay there and didn't move because she couldn't do it. "Don't move, dear. Your spine is damaged. Now every movement can bring you harm," he told her. "How can that be?" Tears came out of my eyes. "Don't cry. We'll try to do something." He stroked her head. Day after day passed. The dislocated leg healed quickly. "You can go home," the doctor told him after 2 weeks in the hospital. "I can't leave Elizabeth here," he replied. "She still needs to stay here for a while, and then we can transport her to another clinic," the doctor told him. Jack decided to do things his way. He went to the place where they had been living and working lately, told the landlord that they would no longer rent it. Then he packed all his things and sent them to the regional center of the region where Elizaveta and her parents lived. He dialed his mother-in-law's number. "Jack, what happened? Why are you gone so long?" she told him. "We were in an accident. Elizabeth is now in a serious condition in the hospital, he told her, and also that he had made arrangements, and in the region they take them for treatment. As soon as you are there, call me immediately. I will come, she told him. Okay, I will, he promised her. Now, it was necessary to pay for a Santrace that would take Elizabeth to the hospital where she could be treated. Jack didn't spare any money for anything. He paid for the hospital, rented a place to live, slept in the apartment himself, and spent the rest of his time at the hospital. Often he was not allowed into the room. There were some operations, but he still sat in the corridor. Now, for some reason, the man began to think that he was responsible for the accident. Elizabeth was discharged. She could sit, but the damage to her spine had not been repaired, so she could not walk. Now all the responsibilities fell on her husband's shoulders. He had to work, come home in the evening, take care of his wife. For a year, 2, 3, he endured, but then his patience wore thin. Jack, where are you going? Elizabeth said to him. She could see that he was leaving again. By this time, the girl could move to the chair herself, because she was tired of waiting for her husband to come and move her there. And there was no strength in lying down all the time. She could get to the kitchen. Why are you sitting there? Her husband would come home drunk. Why are you behaving like this? Elizabeth didn't understand him. She was very dependent on him. Now she had no walks. Nothing, because if she could do anything by herself, she could not go out without help. Leave me alone. Her husband only waved her off. Hire me a nurse. Leave me alone, Elizabeth cried and asked him to do it. Yeah, what else can I do for you? Jack was very nervous lately. He started drinking. He could do it just at home by himself, and then lay on the floor. Elizabeth was in a desperate situation. Daughter, let me take you home, her mother offered her. How can you not understand that I am here at the clinic, which every time does me some new procedures? Elizabeth realized that she and so cannot, and so cannot, and so cannot. And she also realized that if she went to her parents now, she would be condemning her mother, taking care of her for the rest of her life, and she didn't really want that. Life in the apartment was like a nightmare. Her husband was always away, and she could do little on her own. Once again, her mother came to visit. How are you? She came up to her daughter and kissed her on the cheek. Why do you ask? Don't you know? Elizabeth called her every time on the phone and told her what was going on in their family. What can I do for you? The woman's hands were dropping. Please call the hospital. Tell them that we are going to them, her daughter told her. The mother did. They went there. Elizabeth was admitted for another checkup. You don't have to lie down, the doctor told her. Try to do something. Lift your legs with your hands and stretch them out. Maybe try to stand near the exercise machine. But how? I can't, Elizabeth told him. How do you know if you've never tried it? He spoke to her a little harshly. Why haven't you? I have, she told him. Earlier, when they'd first gotten out of the hospital, Jack had helped her. She used to stand up on the special exercise machine and even make an attempt to move her legs. Then, when it all started, Elizabeth had given up. She let her mom go home, realizing she had her own things to do, and she was left here alone with the doctors. Doctor, tell me the truth. If I start practicing now, do I have a chance to get back on my feet? She looked him in the eye. You know, miracles do happen, he answered her uncertainly. Elizabeth realized she had no chance. Jack, can you come get me? She called him when she was told she was being discharged from the hospital. She heard him sigh heavily. I'll be there in 2 hours, he promised her and hung up. Once again, she was in their rented apartment, and again he was not paying attention to her. Please don't go, she begged him. But her husband didn't listen to her. He had his own cockroaches in his head. He would leave and come back. Elizabeth realized if he had the opportunity to get rid of her now, he would do it. She would be in her room in the evening, looking at her sleeping husband when he came in and thinking they no longer had any family. But she couldn't help it. What are you looking at me for? Jack opened his eyes. Tell me, why is it like this? His wife asked him. How so? He sat down on the couch. He had a headache. "Why don't you leave me? Hire me a nurse. I will pay for it myself," Elizabeth told him. "How can I leave you? What will people say about me? That while everything was normal, I lived with her and just had an accident. Immediately abandoned," he said to the girl. "So what? It happens. You fall out of love, or it's hard for you, why not?" She tried to talk to him normally. "What do you know?" The man was freaking out. He'd go into the kitchen and rattle the dishes. Then he'd come back with a glass of beer. "Jack, stop it," Elizabeth would tell him. "What are you offering me?" he shouted at her. "Take me to the city where we studied with you. I know there is a very good rehabilitation center. They will help me, and I will be closer to home," she told him. "Sit here. Nothing will happen to you," he said cheekily, and went into another room. Elizabeth cried. Yes, she could call her mother again to come, but she did not want to upset the woman and tell her that her husband does this to her. So the girl tolerated everything. One day she called the clinic herself and asked about a caregiver. She was told that a free girl or woman could come to her from the social welfare. She won't be in the apartment all the time, but she can help. "Thank you very much," thanked them, and hung up the phone. A few days later, the doorbell rang. When Elizaveta opened the door, she saw that a young girl had come. "Hello, my name is Anna. I will help you," she said in a friendly manner. "And I am Elizaveta. Thank you for coming." She let her into the apartment. From that moment on, the girl came in the morning. She not only took care of Elizabeth, but also gave her massages and read books. In general, somehow they were doing things, having fun. "Oh, we have visitors." Jack came home early one day. "Hello, I'm Anna. I help your wife." She smiled at him with an expressive smile. "And I'm Jack. It's a pleasure." He liked the girl. Elizabeth could not see this. She could only hear their dialogue because she was now lying on the bed in the room. Elizabeth tried to move into the chair herself. They heard some noise from the room and the girl went back there. "Oh, what are you doing?" She helped her into the chair. "Thank you, Anna," Elizabeth told her. Together they went into the kitchen to prepare something. "I should be leaving soon," Girl told her. "All right, I'll finish it myself," Elizabeth agreed. Together they peeled potatoes, put the roast meat, and then the girl went to the door. "Why are you leaving already?" Jack asked her. "You know, I come here for 3 hours. We do all the procedures, and then I leave," she told Jack. "That's why I've never seen you," he guessed. From then on, every day the man came home early to catch Anna there. One day she was in the kitchen, washing dishes, and Jack went in. "How's it going?" he asked her. "Fine." She turned her head. "What are you doing?" I could hear him flirting with the girl. "Can't you see I'm doing the dishes?" she told him. "Help?" Strange as it may seem, he offered to help her. Elizabeth was in her room at this moment. She heard it all. It was very unpleasant, but the most important thing now was how Anna would react to all this. "Why help? Take it and wash it yourself," she told the man. It was clear from her voice that she was not just talking to him. Elizabeth was disgusted to listen to all this, but there was nothing to do. She realized that they had no family, though she had told her mother about it long ago, but she hoped for something else because Jack lived with her, did not leave her, did not abandon her. Now things were beginning to look very different. Every day Anna came in the morning. She gave Elizabeth a massage as always, tucked her under a blanket, and then read a book for a while. And when the front door slammed, Anna would simply take Elizabeth's wheelchair, wheel it out into the hallway, close the door behind her, and walk out to Jack. "Hello," she'd say to him. "Hello, Queen. How are you?" He'd kiss her. After that, they would go into the room and close the door behind them. His wife lay in bed, tears streaming from her eyes, but she couldn't help it. "Wait for me tonight. I'll pick you up," she heard voices from the corridor. "All right, bye, Jack. I'll be waiting." Anna slammed the door. After that, no one came to Elizabeth's room until morning. Her husband would leave in the evening. It was unknown what time he would arrive. "What have you done here?" Elizaveta came in the morning. "Anna, why are you doing this to me? Take me away, please, to the city where I ask you," she said to the girl. "You deal with your husband. I have nothing to do with it." She turned her over, put her on the chair, and changed the bed herself. It was also necessary to take the woman to the shower, but Anna didn't do that. The most she could do was wipe her down with tissues. "Elizabeth, hello, how are you doing?" her mother called her. "I'm fine," she answered her. "Are you sure I shouldn't come?" The woman was worried about her. "Mom, what are you doing?" "I have a nurse. I have a husband. Why come?" she told her. "Okay, look, if it's bad, call me and I'll come right away." My mother felt something. It was the same thing every day. "Jack, let's just take her wherever she wants to go." "Let her live in her own rehab center," Anna asked the man. "Do you want that?" he asked her. "Look, you don't feed her, you don't wash her. You don't do anything. When was the last time she was on the street?" Anna told him, and looked squeamishly at Elizaveta. "What do you care about her?" "She sits and sits." Her husband did not even look at her now. "Don't you want to divorce her?" the girl asked him. What would that change? He didn't understand. "I don't know. You will be free. We can make a couple," Anna told him. All this time, Elizabeth sat in her room by the window. She didn't want to interfere with their conversations or anything else. To call someone and tell them would be to embarrass herself for the whole town. But on the other hand, no one knows her here, so why not do it? Elizabeth had been thinking a lot lately. She began to lift herself up and stand near the windowsill. The woman asked her to move the bed so that the wishbone was against it. Then Elizabeth put a chair between the windowsill and the bed arch, grabbed hold of the arms, and tried to get up. At first she did not succeed, but after a while she could do something. Elizabeth realized that all her strength depended on her hands. Now, when her husband and Anna were not at home, Elizabeth could do more than before. Not 6 months later, Anna moved into the same apartment where Jack and Elizabeth lived. "I'm divorcing you," Jack told her. "It's about time. Please take me away from here," she begged him. "I will," he told her. Now, Elizabeth sat in her room all the time, and no one thought of her. Jack had made a sort of bolt, and when he and Anna needed to go out, they just locked the woman in there. "Open up, please. Open up." He couldn't even go to the bathroom. "Why are you yelling there?" The man would come and irritatedly tell her, "Why do you need me? Why are you mocking me?" She couldn't understand it, and he was still ashamed. "I don't understand. What are you ashamed of?" Anna came up to him. "Well, the neighbors saw that my wife is disabled. The doctors know. And now, where will I put her?" Wrinkled his forehead. "Let her go to her mother," suggested Anna to him. "And what? What will they do there?" Jack couldn't understand what everyone was pestering him about. "You!" Elizabeth came up to him and looked into his eyes. "You are ashamed to give me up in what you are doing now. Are you not ashamed? Look at me, what I've become. When was the last time you fed me? When you washed me? When you did anything else? I haven't been outside in a year. How dare you yell at me? I've done everything for you in this life. I earned money. You've been hanging on my neck all your life, even in the north. When I came here, you couldn't do anything on your own. If it wasn't for me, you would have died in that car." He stood there and boasted about something incomprehensible. "I'd rather die in that car than live like this with you." She shouted at him. "Oh, that's right." Jack started throwing things on the floor angrily. So exhaled Elizabeth. She did not have enough anger also from her powerlessness. "Get her dressed," he said to Anna. "And where are you going?" She stood listening to the scandal but not participating in it. "I said put something on her," he shouted very angrily. Then he took her outside with the stroller, put her in the car, put the stroller in the trunk. He took off. "Where are you taking me?" she shouted from the back seat. "You'll find out. You haven't been out for a year. Now you're going to be out." He took everything from her, phone, money, documents, everything. "Jack, you wouldn't dare do that," Elizabeth cried. "I wouldn't dare." "Yes, I dare you. I'm sick of you. You've ruined my life." He was angry. He drove so fast that Elizabeth thought they were about to crash or overturn. Jack brought her to the very town she wanted to go to, where she had studied and lived for a couple of years. "This is where you wanted to go," he said angrily. "Jack." She looked at him and couldn't believe that this man she once loved had now stopped in the middle of the street. The man pulled the wheelchair out first, then picked her up, putting her in the wheelchair. "You can live wherever you want, cripple. I don't need you anymore," he told her, pushed the wheelchair away, got into the car himself and drove off. Elizabeth tried to stop the wheels from going, but she did not have enough strength, and at that moment a car was coming to meet her. The girl clutched her eyes. But the car managed to stop in time, just a few centimeters away from the girl. The driver ran out of it. "Are you sick of living?" he shouted to her, grabbed the handles of the stroller and took her a little aside. "Thank you," Elizabeth told him, lowered her head and continued to cry. She realized that no one needed her in this world, perhaps only her mom. But now she had one goal: to get to the rehabilitation center, even if she had no papers, but maybe she could get help there. At that moment, the car that had just almost run over her started up and then stopped again. Elizabeth. She heard her own name, but thought it might be someone else's, or maybe it was just her imagination. Elizabeth. The name was pronounced more clearly. She realized that she was indeed being addressed. She turned her head and saw Billy in the open car window. "Hello," she said to him. "What are you doing here? What happened to you?" He ran out of the car and walked over to her. "As you can see," she waved her hands. "Let's go, you'll tell me everything." He asked the driver to help him. He himself took Elizabeth and the driver put the stroller away. "Thank you," she told him as he got her into the car. "To the restaurant," Billy ordered. The car started and they drove off. As they sat at the table, the girl began to tell Billy her story, how they'd gone north, how they'd been in an accident, and what her husband had done to her. "God, what you've been through." The man closed his eyes. "Well, how are you doing?" she asked him. "I'm not doing well. I worked in our city. Then I was transferred to the region, and from the region sent here. And now I run the city here," he answered her. "You mean you're the mayor?" She rounded her eyes. "Yes," he told her calmly. "Wow, how are things with Emma?" Elizabeth wondered. "There's been no Emma for the last 5 years." He tilted his head to the side. "What happened? You had such a good relationship." Elizabeth didn't understand. "There was nothing good there," Billy said quietly. "How come things didn't work out so well in our lives?" she sighed. "I guess everything is for the best. And that's why we had to travel such a thorny path to meet each other now." He took her hands in his. "What do you mean?" She didn't understand. "Do you remember you asked me why I quit your father's job then and left without saying anything to anyone?" he asked her. "Of course I remember," she smiled. How could she forget such a thing? "So when I met you at the station and gave you the earrings, I really knew that I liked you very much and cared for you. I didn't want to rush things so as not to scare you or your parents, but I dreamed of being together with you. When you left, Sam and I were at the store, and he told me that while I was in session at the beginning of September, during that time he drove you to your studies. Then he came back, you went for walks together, and now you were dating." As he spoke, Elizabeth's eyes grew larger and larger. How could he even say that? It wasn't true. "Yes, he drove me to and from school, and even came over once, but it was all just as a friend. I never liked Sam. He was a really good friend, but nothing more. You, on the other hand." She stopped talking. "Elizabeth, I saw it and understood it, and you were dear and close to me too, but I couldn't disbelieve my friend's words. And he said it so confidently that there was no doubt. I decided not to disturb anyone and just stand aside, at which point the order came." Elizabeth looked at the food and swallowed her saliva. She hadn't been eating like she used to lately, so she would swallow an elephant right now. So what happened then? She wanted to know the story to the end. "Nothing," I just went to my parents and then I met Emma. I proposed to her, and now we're married. I sent an invitation to your family. Of course, I was expecting you to come. I thought Harry was coming with his wife, and when I saw you at the reception, I was very sad. But he picked up his fork and began to pick at his plate. Jesus, Billy, how did this happen? Elizabeth realized that two people who loved each other had just lived for so many years and both resented each other. Now she was ready to make things right, but she couldn't. Billy, as mayor of this town, can you restore my documents? She asked him. What happened to them? He didn't understand. My husband freaked out. He took everything, brought me here, and just left me for dead, she said. Of course, my dear. I'll do anything for you. After that, they went to the same rehabilitation center, where Elizabeth, of course, was accepted, got her settled, and now she started her course. Billy came every day to visit her. He made her the papers she had supposedly lost. The man believed everything would be all right. Let's go for a walk. He would put her in a chair and they would go outside. Hello, Billy approached them, the doctor who was attending to Elizabeth. Good afternoon. A man walked slowly down the path, pushing a wheelchair in front of him. You know, I want to tell you that Elizabeth is doing well. She's a smart girl. If she had done her exercises earlier, the process would have gone faster. He praised the woman. I hear it's going well. He leaned over her ear. I'm glad Elizabeth knew she was making progress. She could stand upright at the machine. Is there anything you want? Billy asked her. Yes. She nodded her head. What was it? He was willing to go to pieces, but he would do anything for her. Please call my mom. Tell her to come over. That was her only request so far. That's it? He laughed. For now, yes. She didn't want to stump him too much. On the phone, call yourself because I may not understand me. She will say what a man. He gave her the device. Thank you, Elizabeth immediately dialed the number, which she knew by heart. Hello? Elizabeth heard in the receiver and tears came to her eyes. She realized how much trouble she was causing her relatives. Mommy? Hello, she told her. Elizabeth, what is this number? The woman immediately became concerned. You can come, and then I'll tell you everything, asked the daughter. Of course, was about to hang up, but Elizabeth stopped her. Wait, you don't know where I am yet, she said, and fell silent and then dictated the address. The woman was not very surprised because it could happen that it was her husband who sent her to rehabilitation. That's it. Now we're waiting for Mom. I think she'll be very surprised to see me here, Billy smiled. Yeah, I think so too, Elizabeth agreed. Mom arrived in the evening. Billy and Elizabeth greeted her. Billy, she was very surprised. Aren't you happy to see me? He hugged the woman. Not that. It was obvious the woman was speechless. So while Elizabeth is in rehab, you can stay at my place. He handed her the keys to the apartment and dropped the address on her phone. Thank you. She was still in shock. I don't have time for this. We'll take you there now and then. I'll be off. Elizabeth realized that she was distracting the local mayor from his main business with her problems. Of course, I'll do everything, his mother assured him. They arrived at the treatment center, where the woman was allowed to study with her daughter. She helped supported, saw how Elizabeth was quickly exhausted, pitied her. Afterwards, they sat outside. It was good. Tell me, somehow the mother waited until the evening to hear everything firsthand. Oh, Mom began to tell her daughter all over again from the moment she hired a caregiver. When I saw Billy, I thought I had something wrong with my head. The woman laughed. And me, he called me, and I think I just hear it because I want to. Elizabeth smiled. There was a kind of warmth inside now. Billy, whom she hadn't seen in so many years. Her mother, who supported her in everything. In the evening, Elizabeth went with her mom to Billy's apartment. They went to the store, bought everything to prepare a holiday dinner. They were in the apartment now. Here I am. It smells so good, the man said, when he got back to the apartment. We cooked dinner. Elizabeth came out to see him. He didn't expect to see her here. They let you out all night. He leaned over and kissed her cheek. Yes, the doctor said I could sleep anywhere. Elizabeth laughed. Until a few months ago, the girl felt old and broken, but now she felt energized inside her again. I talked to my bosses today, asked for a vacation. They promised to give it to me in a month or two, said the man who was already at the table. That's wonderful, said the woman, who still could not sit down, all the clutter. You and I will go to the clinic in the capital. I have a friend there. He promised me to put you on your feet, Billy said quietly. Why are you whispering? Elizabeth asked him quietly. So as not to scare him off, he laughed. They sat at the table for a long time, talking, remembering what had happened then, many years ago. Does anyone know how Sam lives now? The man asked and looked at Elizabeth's mother. No, I haven't heard anything about him, she said honestly. It would be interesting to meet. Billy shook his head. Yes, everyone was young and happy. Must be how fast time goes by, the woman sighed. She stayed to clear the table, and Billy and Elizabeth went into the room. Would you agree to marry me? He asked her. Billy stood looking out the window. Why would you want me like that? She remembered her life with her husband, and she shuddered. I love you. There used to be love, and now that I've met you, I realize that the feeling hasn't gone anywhere. He turned to her and knelt in front of the stroller. Okay, just let's make a deal, hypothetically. I will marry you. But there is one condition. She looked at him. Speak. He waited. You and I will go to Washington if I get the operation there and I can move. Though not immediately, I promise to train. Then we go to apply. If they say they can't do anything, I'll pack my things and go to my mom. Elizabeth lowered her eyes. Okay, but I believe everything will be all right. He put his arms around her, and now they had their very first kiss. Not a baby kiss on the cheek, but a real kiss. Billy, she put her arm around his shoulders and looked into his eyes. Elizabeth, he rested his head on her shoulder. Thank you for everything, she whispered in his ear. I love you, he whispered back. The rehab was over. Yes, Elizabeth wasn't back on her feet, but she could already do so much more. Now, when she got tired of sitting by the bed or the wall, she could get to her feet and stand for a few minutes. As the man promised, he took Elizabeth to Washington, D.C., and there she was, immediately assigned to a clinic. A good specialist worked there. His parents used to be neighbors of Billy's family. The guys had been friends since childhood, and now they hadn't lost touch. He agreed to help, but he didn't promise anything. It was hard after the surgery. Elizabeth was like a small child again, who had to be taught how to walk. Billy, why do you want to do all this? She asked him. Because I love you and I want to help. He supported her as she walked on the exercise machine. I know how hard all this is. Elizabeth was already tired, but she didn't give up. She did what the doctors said, and in a month, she was already walking with a walker in the corridors of the clinic. Look at yourself, what a good girl you are, a man told her. It's all thanks to you, she answered him. It's not because of me, it's because of you. He came up to her and kissed her. If it weren't for your support and love, I wouldn't have anyone to do this for, and I wouldn't be trying so hard, she admitted. Well, Billy, I congratulate you a little more, and your bride will go to the registry office with her own feet, said to him Elizabeth's attending physician and part-time friend. Thank you. They shook hands. You're welcome. It's her willpower and perseverance. The doctor winked at Elizabeth. Yes, I know, he hugged his beloved. That's it. I wish you happiness. Turned around the doctor. We'll be waiting for you at the wedding, Billy said after him. Sure, send an invitation. He disappeared around the corner. Home? Billy asked. Yes. Elizabeth was still in a wheelchair, but she could walk without it. They flew to the town that Billy ran and decided to settle here. Elizabeth's mother and father came to see them as soon as they found out they were in the area. Elizabeth, her father hugged his daughter. If her mother saw her even once in a while, the man hadn't seen her in years. Daddy, she got up from her chair and walked up the wall to him. Wow, he was looking at her. Daughter, cried Mom. After that, they sat at the table for a while. Mother had brought a lot of stuff with her. She'd cooked it here. Billy had gone away for a while. Well, where is he? It's time to sit at the table. Mom was in a weepy mood today. Here I am. Did you miss me? Billy, on the contrary, was cheerful. He's been in a great mood lately. Yeah, come on in. Mom pointed to his chair. Everyone else was already at the table. I'm sorry I'm late. I didn't think you'd be waiting for me. He sat down next to Elizabeth. Enjoy your meal, everyone, Harry said. I want to raise a glass to your daughter, poured Billy into the champagne glasses. Thank you. Mom had tears in her eyes again. Would you mind if Elizabeth became my wife? He pulled out a box and held it out to her. Just like this one, she said. What? Billy turned to her. Remember those earrings? She asked him. Yes, he nodded. It was the exact same box. And she took it, opened it, and put the ring on her finger. And why didn't I marry you then? Now we would have lived as a family for a long time, and maybe this wouldn't have happened. The father looked at the stroller. Let's not talk about the past anymore. There was nothing good there, Billy asked. Okay, everyone agreed with him. They sat around the table and talked about where and how the wedding would be held. Elizabeth's mom was so happy for her daughter, especially now that she was up out of her wheelchair. Mommy, thank you for everything. Before they left, her daughter hugged her. That's it, we're off. But don't think you'll get rid of us so easily. The parent smiled. Finally, we're alone, Billy hugged his future wife. You're the best man. I knew that when I was 15 years old. She kissed him and said those words. I couldn't even dream of meeting you like this. He took her in his arms and carried her into the bedroom. Everything was going very well. The dress was bought. The guests were invited. The venue was decided. The bride and groom were happy. Will you make it? Asked Billy to Elizabeth. Of course she wasn't sure, but she was trying very hard. If anything, tell me. I'll pick you up right away, he worried for her. Naturally. She looked under her feet. Everything was done, though. During the registration, the bride asked for a chair. Everyone understood why this happened, so no one paid attention. Congratulations, wishes for happiness, tears, kisses, everything was there at this wedding. Billy and Elizabeth arrived home. They were in a different status now. Beloved, I want to talk to you. It had been a month since the wedding. Husband and wife were sitting in the kitchen eating breakfast. Sure, ask whatever you want. He looked at her with loving eyes. Let's take a child from the orphanage. She had been thinking about it for a long time. Back when she lived with Jack, but she didn't dare to ask. Don't you think it's a little late for us to be thinking about that? He looked serious now. No, she was sure of herself. Well, I can't tonight, but we can go tomorrow, he agreed with her. Elizabeth, if she could, would have jumped for joy. She walked over to her beloved husband and kissed him. Have a good day, she said as he left for work. I'll be there soon, don't miss me. He closed the doors behind him. Elizabeth was left to do the housework. She was getting ready for tomorrow. Right now, it was unclear who she would like. To be honest, she wanted an infant so she could start raising him from the beginning. But today was too early to guess. Good morning. Billy was the first to wake up. Hi. Elizabeth opened her eyes. I'm free until lunch today, so get ready. We're going to go to that place we talked about yesterday, always keeping his promises, man. You are the best man on earth. She quickly got up, went to the bathroom, washed her face, got dressed, and was ready to go out. Let's at least have coffee, saw the husband, how the wife wants to go quickly. Okay, she hurriedly brewed it. And then they were at an institution where there were kids of all ages. Elizabeth was shown some pictures, and she looked out the window. All the children were walking in the lot, and only one boy was standing a little farther away. She walked down to the street and approached him. Mom. He looked up at her. Hi, yes, I'm your mom. My name is Elizabeth. She hugged the child. Where have you been for so long? He asked her and cried. I was sick, and then I was treated, and now I've come to get you. She kissed the boy. Are we going home now? Asked Max. Yes, she looked at Billy. The boy had been staying with them while the paperwork was being processed, and then he was officially their son. Now, it was a complete, real family, where everyone loved each other.